Jana Gana Mana Adhinayaka Jaya He Bharata Bhagya Vidhata. These lines rouse a certain emotion in the heart of every Indian. It is the first line of our beloved national anthem. And today, I'm here with you to unpack its meaning and see what this song is all about. On 11th January 1911, the Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore wrote a prayer to someone he called India's eternal charioteer. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go through the song and figure out who he wrote this prayer for. Today, as we celebrate India's Republic Day in the year 2025 on 26 January, according to the Gregorian calendar, I want to remind us that as Bharatiyas, as Indians as the world knows us, we must go deep into the roots of our culture, our history, our traditions, our philosophies, our knowledge systems, and uncover it and discover it and revel in the joy that it brings to us. These are the most precious gifts that our ancestors left behind for us. And it is our greatest honor and privilege to be a recipient and heir to a legacy that goes back thousands of years into the depths of Indian history. The national anthem of India captures this long timeline that we find in the history of India, and yet it is a contemporary song that captures the very essence, the soul of what it means to be a Bharatiya. And so without further ado, let me jump right into it. This song was composed by Rabindranath Tagore, Asia's first Nobel laureate, on 11th of January 1911. His nephew helped him write the music score, and soon it was sung at various public gatherings, including the one where the largest political party of India, the Indian National Congress, had the song sung in their second major meeting in the December of that same year. This song immediately began to court controversy, and I'll read out a few news excerpts from history to show how the media critiqued the song and what Rabindranath Tagore said in his defense. So on 28th December 1911, the statesman said, the Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore sang a song composed by him specially to welcome the emperor. Knowing very well, Tagore was one of the frontline activists critiquing British Empire in India. But let's listen on. The proceedings began with the singing by Rabindranath Tagore of a song specially composed by him in honor of the emperor, said the publication called Englishman, on 28th December 1911, which is the same day. The Indian newspaper said, when the proceedings of the Indian National Congress began on Wednesday, 27 December 1911, a Bengali song in welcome of the emperor was sung. A resolution welcoming the emperor and the empress was also adopted unanimously. However, the poet himself denied that claim. On about 10th November 1937, the poet wrote a letter to Pulin Bihari Sen about the controversy that it had generated, where people began to say that Tagore wrote a song to welcome Emperor King George V and Queen Mary. A certain high official, and I quote, a certain high official in His Majesty's service, who was also my friend, had requested that I write a song of felicitation towards the emperor, said Rabindranath Tagore. The request simply amazed me. It caused a great stir in my heart. In response to that great mental turmoil, I pronounced the victory in Jana Gana Mana of that Bhagya Vidhata, the God of destiny of India, who has from age after age held steadfast the reins of India's chariot through rise and fall, through the straight path and the curved. The Lord of destiny, that reader of the collective mind of India, that perennial guide, could never be George V, George VI, or any other George. Even my official friend understood this about the song. After all, even in his administration, but the crown was excessive, he was not lacking in simple common sense. Unquote. In another letter, on 19th March 1939, Rabindranath Tagore writes, I should only insult myself if I cared to answer those who consider me capable of such unbounded stupidity as to sing in praise of George IV or George V as the eternal charioteer leading the pilgrims on their journey through countless ages and the timeless history of mankind. Unquote. In Purvasha Falgun, 1354, in the Bengali year, Bangabdo. So a lot of people in India still think that Rabindranath Tagore wrote the song for Emperor George V. And from his personal letters to his friends, it is amply clear that he did not. He emphasizes he wrote the song for the eternal charioteer of India, the Bhagya Vidhata, the God of destiny, who held steadfast the reins of India's chariot through rise and fall, through the straight path and the curved. He wrote, Jana Gana Mana Adhinayaka Jaya He. Jaya He means, may all glory be to, may victory be to. Who? The Adhinayaka, the hero among heroes. That decides the destiny, the future, the unfolding of Bharata. Bharata Bhagya Vidhata. And then he explains that the various regions of India, Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Dravida, Utkala, Banga, Vindhya, Himachala, Yamuna, Ganga, Uchchala, Jaladhi Taranga. That means Vindhyas, the mountains in the middle of India, Himachala, the northern mountains of India, Yamuna and Ganga, the two major rivers that flows to the east and west of the country. Uchchala, Jaladhi Taranga, and the oceans that cover all of the borders of India. Wake up! That means the people who live in all these places, who enjoy the beauty of the rivers and the oceans and the mountains, wake up to your holy names, Tava Shubha Name Jage. And who is that? That is Tagore's India's eternal charioteer. We'll get to who that could be towards the end of this lecture. But Tagore says that people of India rise in the morning to listen to the holy names of that God of India's destiny, who is the hero among heroes of the hearts of all Indian people. Tava Shubha Ashisha Mage, they wake up, seek his blessings. Gahe, they sing. Tava, your Jaya Gatha, the songs of your victories. Jana Gana Mangala Dayaka Jayate. Bharata Bhagya Vidhata, O God of India's destiny, who only thinks of bestowing auspiciousness, goodness, Mangala to the people of India. May you be forever victorious. Jaya He, Jaya He, Jaya 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 He. May all victory, may all victory, may all victory, may all glory, all glory, all glory be to you. In fact, this is the English translation Tagore himself composed. Thou art the ruler of the minds of people, dispenser of India's destiny. Thy name rouses the hearts of the Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha, of the Dravida and Orissa and Bengal. It echoes in the hills of the Vindhyas and Himalayas, mingles in the music of the Yamuna and the Ganges, and is chanted by the waves of the Indian Sea. They pray for thy blessings and sings thy praise. The saving of all people wait in thy hand, thou dispenser of India's destiny. Victory, victory, victory to thee. And then the Indian Constituent Assembly, on the Republic Day, when the Constitution was made, adopted this song, the first verse of this song, as India's national anthem. Of course, there was some controversy around it too, because many people wanted Vande Mataram, the song written by Bankim Chandra, another Bengali literary giant, a few decades earlier, as being non-secular. But that is another question for another lecture. In the verses that we don't sing of the India's national anthem comes a further explanation of who the prayer is addressed to. The poet Rabindranath Tagore writes, Ahoroho tabo aobhano procharito shuni tabo udaro bani Hindu Bodh shiko Jaina paroshiko Musalman Krishtani Purava Paschima ashe tabo singhasano pashe Premo har hoy gatha Janagana oikko vidhayaka jayo he Bharat bhagyo vidhata Jayo he jayo he Jayo 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 he Ahoroho tabo aobhan, day and night, your voice goes out from land to land, calling. Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs and Jains, round thy throne and the Parsis, Musalmans and Christians, says Rabindranath Tagore. The East and the West join hands in their prayer to thee, and the garland of love is woven. Thou bringest the hearts of all people into the harmony of one life, thou dispenser of India's destiny. Victory, victory, victory to thee. So, in this verse, Rabindranath Tagore presents a vision of secular India where everyone understands that even though they might believe in God differently, they are not believing in different gods. Ultimately, there can only be one, according to Tagore at least. But just in other traditions such as Islam and Christianity, God has many names. In the traditions of Dharma, God has many faces. But more importantly, not all people who practice Dharma necessarily want to believe in God with blind faith. This is a land where we pray and we meditate to experience the divine in its impersonal and deeply personal forms. But again, that's another topic for another lecture. In the third verse of the song, Rabindranath Tagore writes, Patono obhudoyo bandhuro pantha, jugo jugo dhabito jatri, he chiro sharathi, taboratho chakre, mukharito patho dinoratri. Daruno biplava majhe, tabo shankhodhani baje, sankato dukkho trata, janagana patho porichayaka jayo he, bharato bhagyo vidhata. Jayo he, jayo he, jayo he, jayo 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 he. Patono obhudoyo bandhuro pantha means the procession of pilgrims, and he considers the generations of people who have lived on this land going back thousands of years as pilgrims, going towards a certain destination to meet their beloved divine. And he says that these passes over the endless road rugged with the rise and fall of nations. The land of Bharat has seen many, many empires come and go. And yet, Bharatiyas have always remained Bharatiyas. And this is what poet Rabindranath Tagore emphasizes. And then he says that as the pilgrims travel through time on this land, this country, this nation, this land is in the hands of India's eternal charioteer, and it resounds with the thunder of thy wheels, says the poet. Through the dire days of doom, thy trumpet sounds, and men are led by thee to across death. Thy finger points the path to all people, O dispenser of India's destiny. Victory, victory, victory to thee. I'll unpack. The language might sound difficult to those who speak colloquial Bangla, but He Chiro Sharathi, Chiro means eternal, and Sharathi means charioteer. Tabo Ratha Chakre, in your wheel, Mukhorito, Patho, Dinoratri. Okay? The rise and fall of nation resound with the thunder of thy wheels. Daruno Biplava Majhe, in the midst of the biggest battlefield that Indians have heard of, your conch shell, Shankha, reverberates, and by making that sound, Shankata Dukkha Trata, just hearing the sound of the conch of India's eternal charioteer in the midst of the biggest battlefield where he led the destiny of India, we feel Shankata Dukkha Trata, relieved from danger and from fear. This is the power of prayer, according to Tagore, where if you take shelter of the supreme, the ultimate persona or personality of the divine or Godhead, then there is nothing to fear. And then he says, Ghoro timiro ghano nibiro nishithe pirito murchito deshe jagroto chilo tabo অবিচল মঙ্গল নত নয়নে অনিমেষে দুঃস্বপ্নে আতঙ্কে রক্ষা করিলে অঙ্কে স্নেহময়ী তুমি মাতা জনগণ দুঃখ ত্রায়ক জয় হে ভারত ভাগ্য বিধাতা জয় হে জয় হে জয় হে জয় 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 জয়. The old English translation according to Tagore reads, the darkness was dense and deep was the night. Ghoro timiro ghano nibiro nishite. And this is a metaphor for India going through severe political challenges in his lifetime, where it has come under the subjugation of an empire that is cruel and that is destructive. And yet Tagore maintains hope, looking to India's eternal charioteer and saying that the darkness was dense and deep was the night. My country lay in a death-like state of swoon. People were like stunned, shell-shocked, almost dead under such oppression. But that eternal charioteer has arms of a mother. But thy mother arms were round her, and thy eyes gazed upon her troubled face in sleepless love through hours of ghastly dreams. So as children experience nightmares in their sleep, and a mother comes and embraces them, giving them comfort and warmth, India's eternal charioteer takes the role of a mother and solaces her children in that way. And at this point, one may ask, why is India's eternal charioteer being addressed in the feminine? And I must say that in Bengali and in Bengali poetry, father and mother are often considered the same. And it comes from the basic grammatical rule in Sanskrit, where, say, for example, if you say pitaro, like father in the dual compound, two fathers, it means father and mother. And in Bengali poetry, you have verses like Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Dhano Pran. That means Krishna is my mother, Krishna is my father, Krishna is my wealth and life. So it is not as distinctly gendered as it is in the English language, and Bangla has no gender pronouns. So that's again another topic for another lecture on Bengali grammar. But coming back to India's eternal charioteer, the poet writes, Ratri Prabhatilo, That means the night fades. Udilo robichhobi. The light breaks out. Dawn appears. Purva udayo giri bhale. Over the peaks of the eastern hills. Gahe bihangamo. The birds begin to sing. Punno shomirano. And the morning breeze carries the breath of a new life. Nabo jivono rashadhale. That sings, carries the breath of a new life. Tabo korunaruno rage. Nidrito bharato jage. The rays of thy mercy has touched the waking land with their blessings. Because of your mercy, India that is currently asleep is waking up. Tabo charone nato matha. I bow my head down in respect to you. Jaya Jaya Jaya, hey Jaya Rajeshwara. May all victory, may all victory, may all victory be to the King of Kings, Bharato Bhagyo Vidhata, the dispenser of India's destiny, the God of India's destiny. Jaya he, Jaya he, Jaya 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 Jaya. May all victory, may all victory, may all victory be to you. Now comes the question, who is India's eternal charioteer? Of course, anyone can debate it any way they want. But those who know Indian culture, those who have read the epics Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavata Purana, and the innumerable other ones that are available across the length and breadth of the land in languages that are as diverse as the people of the country, know that India's eternal charioteer is Vasudeva Sri Krishna. And India's national anthem is written as a prayer to Krishna. Not everybody knows this. And when they sing, they don't think about it. But I think it is important to know the history and the meaning of the song that is so beloved to our hearts, that the founding fathers of the country felt to be capturing the very essence of the soul of India. Why does Tagore say this prayer in this form? My answer to that is, the truth cannot always be spoken directly when the circumstances are not right. As Sri Krishna himself teaches, that whatever you say, it should be satyam, hitam, and priyam. Satyam means it should be the truth. It must have veracity. It must be spoken with integrity. But more than that, we must understand that it must be hitam. It must be spoken for the benefit of the other person. More importantly, it must be priyam. We must not weaponize truth. We must speak it in a language that resonates with our audience and helps them grow. It helps us uplift them. And thus, truth is not a weapon to be used against someone, but a service done to them in order to foster deeper communication, closer connection, and mutual well-being. Having said that, let me unpack the song and the lines in particular where Tagore says, O eternal charioteer, through the dire days of doom, thy trumpet sounds and men are led by thee across death. The story of this song clearly begins with the Bhagavad Gita, a critical moment in India's history where the question of what is dharma, what is acceptable, what are some of the principles and values of our society who are being questioned. The Bhagavad Gita appears in a larger epic called the Mahabharata, which records a fratricidal war between two sets of cousins, the Kurus and the Pandavas. But the story is much deeper. The war is about the question of dharma, which gets defined in a later epic called the Bhagavata, which is Krishna's biography, as four cardinal values. Satya, which is honesty, truthfulness, integrity. Then Saucha, which is cleanliness, purity, hygiene. Tapa, which is resilience, endurance, austerity. And Daya, which is compassion, empathy, and non-violence in its broadest sense. And this appears in the first book, 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Purana, where the story of the emperor of India, known as Parikshit, gets retold by a set of sages at a holy pilgrimage site called Naimisharanya. It is said that after that massive bloodbath, the massacre of the Mahabharata war happened, the Kurus, the cousins, were defeated, and the Pandavas won. But even after winning the kingdom and ruling the empire for some time, they set out for the forest and gave the responsibility over to Arjuna's grandchild, Parikshit. During his reign, Parikshit was traveling incognito in his land to see what people say about him. Of course, those were the days where there was no news media, and emperors who were conscientious would go and mingle among common people to see and empathize with their suffering. And the emperor, out in his country, disguised as an ordinary person, came across a very vivid but ghastly scene. He saw that someone, an impostor, dressed up as himself, as Parikshit, was torturing two animals, a cow and a bull. This person had chopped off 3 of the legs of the bull, and this bull was bloody and writhing in pain. And this person was so cruel that even though the bull was in pain, he kept beating it harshly with a stick while tying the cow up to see the torture as a mute animal. When Parikshit Maharaj went and asked him, "Who are you?" this person said, "I am Parikshit." And when Parikshit Maharaj revealed his true identity, the story says, this man confessed he was Kali, the sign of the times, where cruelty, hypocrisy, and quarrel would be the norm of the day. And these things were against dharma. So just to quickly recap, the 4 values, Satya, Saucha, Tapa, and Daya, are considered dharma. And when these values are compromised, it is adharma. And the premise of the Mahabharata, the Bhagavata, the Bhagavad Gita, and many other epics of India is that dharma rakshati rakshita. When dharma is protected, when these cardinal values of society are protected, then civilization can thrive. And Parikshit Maharaj realized that this man who was an impostor was Kali, and the bull represented dharma. The 4 legs of the bull were Satya, Saucha, Tap, and Daya. And in this day, because of the influence of Kali, the 3 legs of the bull, except for Satya, were chopped off, and truth alone was tottering. And in our present day and age, some of us in my generation still remember the global financial crisis of 2008 that was caused because people did not follow the principle of Satya. We saw during the pandemic in 2000 that Saucha, hygiene, purity, cleanliness was so essential for the maintenance of society and civilization. We know that there is no other replacement for hard, honest work. But we must also know that compassion, mercy, non-violence is the highest value of dharma. Ahimsa paramo dharma. So when King Parikshit saw this particular villain, he said, "You must get out of my kingdom." And this person said, "There is nowhere else to go." And so Parikshit said that you must go and live wherever there is needless slaughter of animals, because that is where compassion cannot exist. You must go and live where women are exploited and manipulated and reduced to their skin and their flesh, because there cleanliness cannot exist. You must go to places where there is unlimited, unrestricted speculation and gambling, because that is where truthfulness is destroyed. And you must go where there is abuse of substances and intoxication and addiction, because that is where enterprise, forbearance, fortitude, hard work is destroyed. So these four areas are the living spaces of Kali in the story of the Bhagavad Purana, and considered to be Sanatan Dharma, because these values of honesty, cleanliness, hard work, and compassion are eternal. Further, the story goes that Kali influenced and misdirected the king who had an untimely death. And I welcome you, my audiences and listeners and friends, to go read the Bhagavad Purana, to enjoy the story and understand why dharma is such an important consideration in Indian culture, history, and worldviews. In the Mahabharata, which is the book that comes before the Bhagavad Purana, the question appears, what is dharma? And dharma is not just duty or justice or doing the right thing. Dharma is much deeper than that. It is said that the dharma of the sun is to shine, the dharma of the wind is to flow, the dharma of water is to quench one's thirst, the dharma of every living being is to love and be loved through service. When this principle of dharma got compromised in the Mahabharata, and in the epic we come across a character called Dhritarashtra, who was blind not only towards his son's ambitions, but also literally blind. And his name suggests he was a person who forcefully held on to his kingdom, even though he was not qualified for it. And Dhritarashtra did not do the right thing at the right time. He let things pass. He let his son create traps for his own family members to be killed. He did not step in when he was required to. And all of the details of the Mahabharata are beyond the scope of a short lecture like this. But when all possibilities were exhausted, then the two cousins, Arjuna and Duryodhana met each other on the battlefield. Between them was Sri Krishna, Arjuna's friend. And Sri Krishna had volunteered to not fight in the war, but be a charioteer. Drive the chariot of anyone who picks him. And he opened himself up to be picked by anybody. And the story goes that Sri Krishna was sleeping, and Duryodhana and Arjuna approached him to ask to take sides. And Krishna has said that he is not going to participate in the war. He is not going to pick up any weapons. But he would divide his army and himself by giving himself to anybody who would choose him and giving his army to the other party. So the story goes that when Krishna was sleeping, Duryodhana entered the room and he felt pride and he sat near Krishna's head, whereas Arjuna felt humility in his heart and he sat at Krishna's feet. And in Indian culture, one's feet is the lowest part of the body, and when you touch someone's feet, you're expressing humility. But when you look at someone in their eye and talk to them, you are expressing that you're equals. So Duryodhana wanted to show that he was an equal to Krishna, whereas Arjuna, the cousin, wanted to show that he was a servant of Krishna. And so when Krishna woke up, he asked Arjuna first, what do you want? Do you want me or do you want my 100,000 strong, trained Narayani Sena, Narayani army? And Arjuna was about to say something when Duryodhana stopped him and said, stop, this is not fair. And Krishna said, I woke up and saw him first. And Duryodhana cribbed and complained and finally relented. And Arjuna said, Krishna, I choose you. And Duryodhana thought, what a stupid guy. You need an army in a war. You can get any charioteer. You can just hire one. But that is where Duryodhana lost the plot. And on the day of the Kurukshetra battle, when the two armies came face to face with each other, Sri Krishna spoke words of encouragement and assurance in the form of a poetry, a Gita, a song. And he saw in front of his eyes his entire life work crumble when Arjuna began to say that he would not fight this war. And Krishna took some time to explain him some deep philosophical concepts about why we must perform one's duty, on why we must not accept this world to be our permanent home or this body to be the real us. Why there are gunas like goodness, passion and ignorance, satya, rajas and tamas that mix with one another to make the world appear the way it is. Why we must love. And there is one particular verse that Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yomi bhaktya prayachati. Whoever offers to me a simple leaf, a fruit, a flower and some water with love and devotion, I accept it. But as with the Bhagavad Gita, there is the apparent meaning and the deeper meaning, just like in India's national anthem. The apparent meaning is where Krishna says, whoever offers me something very simple, with love, I accept. But the deeper meaning, taught to me by a teacher, Professor Murumbai Narasimhachari, who was a great Vaishnava Pandit and a professor at the University of Madras, and a visiting professor at Oxford University where I met him during my graduate years, said that when you fold your palms in prayer, that is considered patram. Your heart is considered a flower, pushpam. When you give the results of your activities as a dedication to the divine, that is phalam. And when you do it with the understanding that we are very insignificant in this big wide universe, and yet we can do significant things only if we are able to travel on the right path and dedicate ourselves to it, with tears in our eyes, toyam, water, when we offer this humility and surrender to the Lord with love, He accepts it. In the beginning of this Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna reverberates, blows in his conch shell, and that was a way for them in the ancient world to indicate that the war is beginning. And Rabindranath Tagore writes that at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, when Sri Krishna was beginning the war, just by reverberating the conch shell, Shankato Dukkho Trata, he became the rescuer of those who were in danger and who were in fear. This is India's eternal charioteer that Rabindranath Tagore writes his poem to. But, of course, he wants to present Krishna to everybody, not because Krishna is a religious figure, but because Krishna is the destiny of India through his actions, through his words, through his example. And by being himself, he holds on to the reins of a country. And if you go back to the national anthem, it says, Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha, Dravida, Utkala, Vanga, Vindhya, Himachala, Yamuna, Ganga, Uchchala, Jaladhitaranga, Tava, Shubhaname Jage. All of the land of India wakes up to your holy names. And in dharmic culture, waking up to the names of God is called Mangala Arati. And that is why I believe Rabindranath Tagore wrote this song as the morning song of India. I thank you very much for your time and your patience, for listening to me. If I have made any mistakes, please forgive me. If there are questions, you can please leave them under this video. I will try my best to check it from time to time and respond to your queries. Please subscribe to the Dharma Studies YouTube channel and our other social media handles. And please take some of our courses, talk to our faculty. Let us know how we can be of some service as you sojourn through this world, trying to figure out deep questions. Many of us have spent years of our life studying ancient books and may be able to answer your questions. And I thank you once again and congratulate you on a beautiful and auspicious Republic Day. May the eternal charioteer of India lead us on, the pilgrims who have appeared on this land, who have an emotional attachment towards the soil, the trees, the people, the food, the colors, the beautiful architecture that our ancestors have left behind for us. Thank you. Vande Mataram.